Morning, folks. Russell here, coming from the shop. Wanted to do a product review, long term actually, because I've been using this. I've been using these power bleeders for years now. So, as you've seen in some of my previous videos, we did a lot of brake and suspension work or steering work on Trashy Betty here, and now it's time to bleed the brakes. We installed new calipers, broke the lines, we've got to bleed the brakes. Normally, you need two people, or you get a power bleeder. Either Mighty Vac, which there's a lot of reviews on the Mighty Vac systems, and I'll actually put a link card up here to a good review on the Mighty Vac from a friend of mine called Farpoint Farms. The other way to do the bleed is to use the Motive Power Bleeder system. I've been using these for 7-8 years or so. Actually, before I even retired from the military and opened a shop, I was using Motive Power Bleeders. You can buy them specific to your vehicle, or in my case, I have one that's got the fittings for pretty much every vehicle. So in the case of the Jeep, this era Jeep was built during the Chrysler era, so we use the Chrysler fitting for the master cylinder, and then it has, I don't know if you can see it. It's got a quick disconnect here, so I can change my fittings out. BMW, Porsche, Chrysler, Asian cars. So most of the Asians all use the same one. Whether it's Japanese, Korean, and then there's even a flat fitting. There's even a plate type fitting to fit older American cars. It's got chains and hooks that go around and you tighten it down. So it's real simple with these Motive Power Bleeders. You fill it up with fresh brake fluid. In my case, because of the system I use, I don't have to empty it every time as long as I'm doing enough brake jobs. But generally, for you, the consumer, if you buy one of these, fill it up with your fresh brake fluid, you screw it onto your master cylinder, and it's like a garden sprayer or a bug sprayer. You pressurize it. For the Chryslers, I usually put about half bar of pressure on it because it's a lock ring style. If you're talking about Porsches, BMWs, Audis, where it's an actual threaded screw, you can run those up to about 20 psi because that's what you need for those ABS systems. But on this Jeep standard non-ABS brakes, we only run it up to about about 15 psi or so. Now, actually only about between 7 and 10 psi. Pressurize it up to that, and then hook up a bleeder bottle. Oh, yeah, I can see that. You hook up a bleeder bottle to catch it, and you can buy the Motive bottles or just, whatever, rubber tubing in a glass jar, whatever, and open the bleeder port. And that's what we're going to do right now, so I'm going to move the camera a little bit. Now, a little bit about doing brake fluid. Generally, you should be flushing out your brake fluid about every 2 years or so, depending on use. Brake fluid is what they call is hydroscopic, which means it absorbs moisture and water. So just by the vehicle sitting, whether you drive it or not, humidity in the air, it'll absorb water in that over time. And that makes the brake fluid less effective, makes it more prone to boil when it gets hot. So every couple of years, especially on high performance vehicles that you drive hard, flush your brake fluid out. Obviously, if you're at like the 2-year mark and you know you're going to do a brake job within 6 months, you can wait. That's in my personal opinion, you can wait. But definitely, you know, if you look at the master cylinder and it's dirty and brown, definitely time to flush the fluid out. This is a real simple system to do. We've already done the rears and the right side. So all I got left to do is bleed this left one, and I got good clear fluid coming out. So I can close this off. And that's that. The caliper's bled. Disconnect my hose, let the excess drain, and then I can put that away later. Once again, kind of a product review for the Motive Products Power Bleeder. It's basically a pressurized container. You can order it specific to your vehicle. So if you've got a Porsche, you can go on Pelican. I think ECS Tuning sells them, and it'll already have the fitting on the end for the Porsche or the BMW, Audi, whatever you're ordering it for. In my case, I ordered a big kit direct from Motive that's got the fittings on it for pretty much every car in production. The other thing you can use these for, in my case, this is what I did. I had a Motive Products Power Bleeder specific for European cars, Porsche, BMW, Audi. And I had bought that for myself because at the time I owned a Porsche, still do. I saw this one that had the full kit in it. I said, well, I'll get the new one. And then what I did with the old one is just cut the hose, left a bare hose on the end of it. And the other thing that I use it, what I use that one for is pressurizing differential fluids, gear fluid, ATF, whatever, into transmissions. So if you got that differential where it's hard to get into the plug somewhere, you fill your gear oil up into the same thing, kind of a pressure container, run it right in and pressurize it out. So secondary use for it. Obviously, if you use it for gear oil, don't ever put brake fluid back in it again, yada, yada, yada. So once again, and I'll put a link to Motive's website down in the description, as well as I'll put a card up here again for Farpoint Farms review of a Mighty Vac system, which is another alternate way to do one-man brake jobs or one-man brake bleeds and clutch bleeds. But the Motive Products Power Bleeder, indispensable. If you do a lot of brake work, even for the consumer, if you have a performance car and you're changing the brake fluid a lot, this thing saves time and money. Don't have to get a second person, and especially on the newer vehicles with your ABS systems, where you really don't want to be pushing on the brake pedal without the vacuum and so on and so forth. It's easy. You just hook this up, apply the pressure direct, forces the fluid out, and then when you're done, you're done. All right. Before I wrap this out, I wanted to kind of give you guys a little bit of a deeper dive into the Power Bleeder, and specifically the big kit that comes with everything and some of its features. Obviously, we have it right here, pressurized bottle with a pump, pressure gauge on it. It's measured in PSI and in bar. Like I said, on a lot of vehicles, I'll just run it up to about half bar. Some of the BMWs, when I'm doing ABS control modules, where we've got to get the flutter valves cleaned off, I may run it up all the way up to about one and a half bar, 1 bar, something like that, just to get a higher pressure and a harder flow through it. Has a quick disconnect on it, so in my case, I do a lot of brake work. Of course, I'm almost out of fluid anyway, so it's time to open this up, clean it out. But once I disconnect it, it's sealed. So it's just like the brake fluid, or a half-open bottle that you seal back up. Indispensable tool. Definitely use it. This one only for brake work. Some of the accessories that came with it, obviously, is this one we just used, and you can see that they're marked. It says Black Label Chrysler adapter, so it's for the Chryslers. I use it quite often. We've got a GM Ford 3-tab adapter, a generic round top adapter. This is the other one I use a lot. This is for the European cars. And then I have another Ford 3-prong adapter. I've got some more adapters that came with it that I put into the toolbox that I use. The big plate one that goes on top of like Corvette master cylinders, and then the one for like Mazdas and stuff like that. I use it a lot too. Like I said, indispensable tool for doing the brake jobs. My old one, let me go grab it. Now, I am not in any way suggesting you go out and buy a motive brake power bleeder to do this. But if you happen to have the excess money or whatever, you can do this. I took an old motive power bleeder and I took the end off of it, so it's just an open hose. And as you can see, I'm not a dummy. I've marked it, no brake fluid, gear oil only, right? And so I do the same thing. I fill the gear oil up in here, whether it's for differentials on a Saab or, you know, not a Saab, Volvo, or the transfer cases on BMW X drives. They're very hard to get into. This thing works great because I can bring the pressure up, and no matter how thick the gear oil is, it's going to push it. It may take some time, but it'll push it. So usually I can set this thing up, set the hose in the diff, pressurize it, walk away, come back 10 minutes later, you know, double check it. So that's another thing you can use these for. I wouldn't recommend going out and buying one of these just for doing gear oil, but if you did buy one and after it's gotten old, or you decide, no, I want the bigger model with all the stuff, then by all means, you take your old one, cut the hose end off, and use it kind of as a pressure, as a fluid pusher for differentials and such. That's all we've got on, you know, on the power bleeder. It's actually a pretty simple system to use. Once again, if you like this content, go ahead and hit like, hit subscribe, hit that bell icon for future notifications, and as always, there's more to follow.